Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the OpenText Live Partner Solutions Spotlight webinar series. We are excited to invite our Solutions Extensions partner, Kinematic, to present with us today. And before we get started with the content, I do like to remind you that we do record all of our webinars in this series. And if you go to opentext.com/events, you'll be able to see all upcoming webinars, as well as there's a section of historical webinars where you'll see the label recordings or recorded, and you'll be able to see this on that page within 24 to 48 hours at the end of the session. You'll also receive a follow-up email with links to the recording and any associated resources. But if at any time, if you don't get the email or you have questions or concerns, you can always reach out to us at partners@opentext.com. My name is Gretchen Morges. I am the Senior Partner Training Manager for OpenText Global Partner Program. And again, I'm excited to have our partner Kinematic here with us today. If you have any questions at all at any time during the session, we ask that you please put those into the Q&A panel. You click on that icon of the two chat bubbles with a question mark in it and put your questions in there, and we'll be able to answer questions at the end of the session. And if you do have a question after we've concluded or any time, you can again reach out to us at partners@opentext.com. All right, so without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to Aaron Norman.
Thank you very much, Gretchen. I appreciate it. And thank you all for taking the time to attend today's webinar. It's been a while, I think, since Kinematic has done one of these, so it's nice to be back in the seat again presenting to you. Today I have with me Chris Shalos, who will be presenting later on. He'll be going through a demonstration of our products, so you'll get to see what they look like. But really today it's also trying to show the value of being able to manage your documents and be able to assign training and have all of the audit information associated to that activity. So I suppose, first of all, maybe just to introduce Kinematic to those of you who don't know Kinematic. We're a very, very long-term OpenText partner. We've actually been a partner of OpenText since 1999, and we're currently a solution extension partner. And what that means is that all of our products are resold by OpenText, and they've been approved for working on their products. All of our products work on Extended ECM or Content Server, and they work on all of the previous versions right up until the very latest. So 23.1 was released only this week, and we're currently testing on that currently. But really what Kinematic, or how Kinematic sees itself, is being able to help organizations get to grip with their different processes that they need to manage within their organizations. And it's quite surprising still, I think, to find that some organizations haven't fully digitized or even digitized many of their processes. And Kinematic is the perfect partner there, because we've been doing this for quite a number of years. And together with our off-the-shelf products that actually manage these processes, we also have become experts in the Extended ECM and Content Server world as well over the many, many years that we've been working with OpenText. And I suppose the overall benefits of this approach is that if you're already using Extended ECM or Content Suite, then it helps your IT department because they're simplifying their IT landscape by expanding out on their existing software deployments. And it really helps that the business can start to have some business solutions deployed to those environments so that they can get additional value out of those environments. And we've got some really good customers and good use cases of how the business is really benefiting from the information. So it's all really about controlling your process, and through that controlling your content and getting more value from your content as well. Just to talk a little bit about what we see in the marketplace today, because we do actually spend quite a lot of time talking to a lot of different organizations about the current status of play and ultimately where they'd like to go to. And there's quite a lot of challenges that organizations still need to get to grips with. And I've just detailed a few of these on the screen today. They're probably the more important ones overall. So the first one, lack of automation. I'm sure we all remember being in organizations where different processes were either emailing content to people or maybe walking even a paper document down a corridor to get somebody to approve and sign it. Things have come on a long way, but there's still an awful lot that a lot of organizations can do by automating a lot more of their processes. And if you can do that on top of a single source of truth, a single platform, you get additional value from that as well. So the lack of automation really does hinder an organization in being as effective as they can be, because of the inherent errors that usually are associated to manual activities. It became very apparent actually over COVID, and I really see COVID as being something in the past at this stage, thank goodness. But I think it really highlighted how a lot of organizations still struggle to update their policies and procedures, and how they can distribute those policies and procedures out to their staff, especially when there's updates or new versions or revisions made available. And obviously, if people are not accessing and using those latest documents, it can become quite a costly activity if people are not making their products to the quality standards that are expected, or services aren't provided in the right way. It costs money through maybe not having as big a customer base, but also potentially from fines and so on if you're not adhering to regulations. And from that, obviously, people being unable to perform their duties, which can even lead to things like shutdowns or causing accidents in the workplace. And nobody wants those, because obviously there's some bad connotations associated to those. It's also, I think, quite obvious in a lot of organizations that it can be difficult to onboard people. It's very difficult to make them aware of all of the different content, the different policies that they need to read, the number of procedures that they need to use on their day-to-day work. And it ends up that they constantly are going back asking people, how do I do this? Where can I find this? And if you can automate how you can give people access to those policies and those procedures when they start through an automated mechanism, that will really help get them on board a lot quicker. And that's something that Chris is going to be showing us and talking about later on today. I mentioned earlier on briefly the unable to demonstrate compliance and wasting time and penalties. So it all really comes back into, it's so important to be able to manage your processes, manage the creation of, revision of, expiration of those policies and procedures, and make sure all of the metadata associated to those documents is all maintained and accurate as well. So I think that gives a pretty good summary of some of the challenges that are experienced still in the marketplace. And if you do have Content Suite or Extended ECM, you're in a very good place to overcome those very quickly and very easily. I mentioned earlier on that we've been a long-term partner of OpenText, and we really see ourselves and OpenText as being symbiotic, really, in a way. We definitely couldn't exist without OpenText, without the great software that they actually have created. And what we see is, because of our experience in both the development of our products, but also in deploying them to our different customers, between Kinematic and OpenText, we think that there's such a great relationship and such a strong value to customers when our combined products are deployed together, because we get to use all of those really powerful records management features, permissions features, the scalability, notifications, workflows, all of those things we get to use. And it really leads to a very robust product. But more than that, going back to Kinematic really seeing ourselves as experts in the business process world, we also see ourselves as being a bit of a bridge really between the IT department and the business community, because quite often there's a slightly different language that's actually used there. And sometimes the business doesn't understand when IT say, no, you can't do this or you have to do this. They don't understand the whys. And we find that we can really facilitate a lot of conversations and help people understand on both the IT and the business side as to why things should go in a certain way. And I also see that the business, once they start to see how our products work and some of the features and how they can help them do their job, they very quickly come on board with taking on a new product and helping that. The last slide then that I have before I hand over to Chris really is to talk a little bit about the importance of both policies and procedures and the training associated to them, really. I'd mentioned earlier on briefly about a single source of truth or a single platform. And I think we're all aware of so many instances where we have too many different places to look for content. Do we look on our website? Do we look on Teams? Do we look in Extended ECM? Do we look somewhere else? And it becomes a very, very difficult way to make sure that people have access to that content. But by using something like Extended ECM, you can really centralize all of your content there. You can standardize the processes that are used to actually go and create and review those documents, and make sure that they all have the appropriate metadata to enable people to find and use those documents later on. So that's really, really important. But then moving on from that, the ability to go and push that content out to users to let them know that there's a new revision of a document, or there's a new policy that's been released that needs to be looked at. By making sure that you can not just send them a notification, say, hey, there's a new document or a new policy. It's making sure that there's a process in place so that they know that they have to read the document and they have to acknowledge that they've read the document. And that's important both for the employees and the organization. It's important for the employees so that they know how to do their work. And it's important for the employer to make sure that the work is being done correctly and that there's a lower risk of any accidents or incidents within the workplace itself. So we do an awful lot in the range of realm of automated notifications, escalations of those notifications, escalation to managers and so on, to make sure that people do comply with training. And Chris is going to show quite a bit later on as well on things like some of the reports that we can do and talk about some of the value there as well. And then one final point just to mention today really is there's always this question of, should I go and build something or should I go and buy something? And I know I'm probably a little bit swayed by working with Kinematic, but from what we've seen over the last long number of years of when we deploy our products to customers, the typical response is, this does more than what I ever dreamed it could do. It was deployed so quickly. And because we continue to go and update our products based on customer feedback and customer requests and best practices, by being able to purchase a Kinematic product, it means that you really do get a fully fledged, very mature product that will do everything that you need to do. So on that note, Chris, I will hand over to you. So if you'd like to just take the screen sharing, please, and I'll let you get on with the demo.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. When Aaron asked me to do the demo part for today's webinar, I wasn't sure whether this is going to be the fun part of the actual session today or whether it's going to be the challenging part. But in all seriousness, we're going to be seeing some very exciting features in today's session. And in today's session, we're actually going to be looking at two distinct applications that can help with ensuring that your employees have read and understood your company policies. And I guess those two particular applications are called document training and document change control. Now, with regards to the demo, I'm on what we call a landing page. Is a standard Smart UI OpenText page. And from here right now, I'm logged in as a person called Jack Murphy. Jack Murphy is a HR manager. This is their homepage. And from here, I can easily access effective release documents by going into the library. And this library contains a variety of documents such as policies, procedures, work instructions, and other content. I can now select to see my official policies by clicking on the policy folder. And from here, I can view the latest document revisions, which ensure that I am compliant. If, for example, I was to select the first particular policy here, when I go into it, this brings up a number of properties. These are normally what we know as metadata, descriptors that actually are stored together with the policy. There's things like, who created it and, record numbers and the like. But I want to draw your attention on a couple of things here that come together with our document change control applications. And this is the effective date. And this is an actual date that when actually reached, this policy will then become available to all your employees. So in other words, when you go through the motions through a process where you create a policy or even revise a policy, and we're going to see how that process works later on, that policy will not be, let's say, published. That will not become available to people straight away. It's all based on this effective date, and that effective date can be decided by management, can be decided by document control, or people who know when that particular policy should be made available at the right time in the right place. If we go further down, there is another piece of automation here for the next revision date. And this is also quite important. What this is a beneficial feature which has like a system scheduled revision where documents always get updated automatically. So in other words, you can rest assured that this document will always be revised. The right people will be prompted, alerted to make sure that it's revised and it's not out of date, and people pick up out of date documents. And in fact, that brings me on to something I had in my own experience in previous employment. Whereas I used to work for, let's say, a transportation company in the UK. And what happened there was a specific engineer picked up the wrong blueprint. They went down to the underground, they carried out some maintenance work, but unfortunately the blueprint they picked up was an out-of-date procedure. So therefore, this meant that they completed the maintenance work incorrectly, and this led to actually an incident the following morning, and it caused delays, and obviously there was penalties and loss in terms of income. So basically, this is the policy and procedures library area and how that works.
Actually, one thing, Chris, I think is very important as well is just what's actually made available, just based on your story there. You wouldn't mind just showing the versions tab of this document, because one of the things that we do is we want to make sure that people do get access to the correct document. And we can see here that there's only a single version of this document. So this has a certain revision on, but there's only one version. They don't get access to older versions of the document. And that really means that, going back to the single source of truth thing, is there is only one copy of this document that's available that can be made available to people. And you can do things like watermark those documents and so on through some of the other OpenText features. And that'll help reduce risk of incidents or accidents, reduce fines, and so on and so forth. And it also reminds me actually of the importance on the consumption side, because not always is going to extended ECM the best way for people to access that content. And we have examples of customers where they actually make their content available in different ways depending on the type of information that it is. So for example, they may make their policies and procedures available through their intranet portal. And they may go and use extended ECM for some types of documents if they're kind of maybe IT specific. They may go and make documents available through some of the extended ECM capabilities like Salesforce if they were marketing documents. They may go and use external websites to make customer facing documents available. But all through all of that, the metadata is still always available to help people find the content or apply the correct permissions to that content so that people don't actually access the wrong information or information that they shouldn't have. So it's really important, I think, to understand that it's not just an extended ECM interface that people can access the content, but it might be a mobile application, it might be a portal, it might be a website, and so on and so forth. It might be CoreShare. And I think the one more point on the next revision date, I think it's really important to highlight that again, because what we're doing is we're automating so many parts of the process. When Chris gives a demo, it looks really easy, but it doesn't show all of the back-end automation that goes on. And this is a very obvious one that's important, to make sure that when that next revision date comes along, that the document does actually get revised. And we go and have a scheduled event that goes and initiates what we call a periodic review workflow, maybe 60 days before that date or 30 days, depending on your policy, so that the documents do get updated on those based on whatever policies or procedures are in place in the organization. Sorry for butting in, Chris, off you go.
Yep, I think you got some words out of my mouth there in terms of, a lot of work is actually performed to get to this point. This is literally the endpoint, the consumption point. So individuals can actually come here knowing that these documents are the official versions, the single source of truth versions. But in the back end of this, there is all these business processes which are carried out in a very controlled manner. That's the reason why it's called document change control. And we obviously have different processes for these, including the creation of policies, let's say, the revision of policies, obsoletion of policies, and expiration of policies. Unfortunately, this is not going to be covered in today's webinar, but if anyone's interested in knowing more about the document change control application, happy to do a demo maybe at a later stage. So we're going to move now back to my homepage, and I am still logged in as I believe Jack Murphy, who is the HR manager. And now we're going to let us see how simple it is to complete an allocated policy training and ensuring the trainee has read and understood the policy documents. So what we're going to do here is we're going to be acting as an individual that has been assigned some policy training, and they need to access the training. And once they access the training, they need to make sure that that particular training is read and understood. So here we are. Very simple to do that. Again, it's going to look very simple. You click on this widget here, which is called document training. And once you click on the document training, I am now able to observe my active and completed document trainings. Again, this could be policies, could be procedures, but what it takes you to straight away is your active training. So I can see from here that instantly that all my current training tasks are together listed here with expected completion dates, the actual document itself, and version number. And I guess in line with safeguarding compliance, my employee training history is also available to me. So if I go to the training history option here, you should see that these are the actual trainings I've undertaken and I've completed. And there's also dates, which again goes back into this full audit trail and compliance. There's also the version that I've actually done the training against, because as Aaron said earlier on, versioning or revisions are very key in terms of how we manage the document training. So in a sense of, I actually completed a training there called approved training courses for version 1, but soon there might be a version 2 issued automatically, and that will come to me again as another training. So it's just separating in this particular portal here, you can actually see your active trainings. I can also see my training history, and from the right normally here, I could access that task, which means it will launch exactly the place where I would actually complete and perform my task. However, what I want to do here is to go through the motions and demonstrate how this will work through the true and real process. There is a process behind this, and the process is that you're assigned a document training task, and this will come to you automatically in your inbox via an email message. And the email message we're looking at on the screen now, it's just an indicative message. This is fully configurable. The wording can be changed, and also the other bits and pieces on this page to make it more against your corporate standards or your branding, if you so wish to. But essentially what I would do here, I would actually click on the link. And this will now take me to the training, the policy training that I need to undertake. There is a number of data on this particular form. There's also the document revision. There's also the actual document here. So from here, I can easily go and open the document and read it in as much as I like. And normally these tasks are given a maximum number of days to complete. So in other words, I might be given 3 days to complete this particular policy training. If I do not complete the policy training within 3 days, I will actually receive a reminder. So all that stuff is in there as well, late reminders, and making sure your manager is also informed if you're late, and they can actually contact you to make sure that you complete this training. Because this is not just about, clicking buttons. It's all about, being compliant, making sure that we are, obviously, going against, safeguarding our employees. And down here, normally what I would do is to select the option read and understand, assuming that I have actually opened that document, I have read it, and then I will submit the training. Submitting the actual training means now that it will be recorded inside my history, as we have seen earlier on. And also sometimes there may be a review step as well. And that review step normally will go to your line manager, possibly, to make sure that, yes, indeed, you have actually completed that training correctly. Besides that, this is, I guess, it's critical to demonstrate compliance and that your employees are always trained. Else there could be fines and reputational damage. Again, I've got some examples from my own experience where it's, the right things were not done at the right time. And unfortunately, incidents took place. It's got to be, in part of the process that people are always trained. And this automated process helps with that, in a sense that, and we're going to see that the last part of the actual session today, whereas you set up the rule once, you set up this business rule, let's say, and this logic knows exactly when to contact all the right people at the right time to complete the training. But we're going to be seeing that probably in the last part of the session today.
Actually, just something that struck me there, Chris, actually, as well. Something that's becoming very, very important at the moment is something called ESG, environmental, social, and governance. And a lot of organizations are adopting ESG as an important part of how they do business. They want to be seen as being environmentally responsible. They want to be seen as being social, looking after their employees and making sure that they're happy and safe, and the governance to make sure that they are adhering to whatever regulations and internal policies and procedures that they may be following. And this is causing a bit of a shift really in how different work practices are and how they're evolving, and how people and organizations need to try and keep up to speed. So there are a lot of changes in a lot of different policies and procedures in organizations at the moment to keep up to speed with this. And even going back when people started working from home, that's still a major part of business life today. It's really important to make sure that you can reach out to those people as well. So having this mechanism of pushing out a training assignment to people and tracking it and managing it, and like Chris said, emailing people to say that they have to do it and it's late, I think is really, really important. It also means that all of this data, because it's stored in the database, is all queryable and reportable. And it allows you to maybe start looking at different trending that's happening in the organization. So for example, you might find that some documents don't have a very high read and understood success rate. And that might be because the document isn't easy to read or it's not easy to understand. So it'll allow you to pick out some outliers from the overall process and see if you can improve things and make things easier for the employees and make their jobs easier and more safe. Or maybe you might see that some roles aren't responding to training assignments, and it might be that they don't feel that they have the opportunity to access it, or maybe they don't access a computer very often to see those notifications. So there's a lot of things that you can do by pulling out reports on the data to really understand what's going on and help them maintain current in their training requirements. And effectively, back to the ESG side of things, make sure they're happy, safe, and working effectively and efficiently, which ultimately benefits the company as well. Back to you, Chris.
Yeah, well, you'll be pleased to know that we're going to be looking at the reporting at the end of this session, Aaron, and I guess we kept the best for last, but thanks for giving people a sneak preview. So the next part here, now we're going to be focusing on the document change control workspace. This is, I guess, a flagship product. It does many things, and I guess today's intention is not to show you its full, features and full glory. But what we're going to do today is to at least get a flavor of what it offers, and that's what we're going to be looking at right now. So for the next part of this session, we're going to look at the document change control application. And again, I am logged in as a friend, Jack Murphy, the HR manager. And I'm going to show you how easy it is for me here to quickly enter the document change control workspace. So I have a recently accessed item here, or a favorite. So when I click on this, it would take me directly to the document change control workspace. The document change control workspace is my team's workspace, where several, I suppose, of my colleagues are collaborating with me in creating or revising documents. You can see on the left here that there is a team of individuals, and my colleagues include approvers, reviewers, document controllers, document authors, and there's also I guess a read-only profile which comes in and just checks to see things, out of interest. But what I want to see, and we want to see together, is the registry, because the registry is the brain of the operation, processing or document change control activities. So besides providing me access to document records and show me all the document details in this table, it features searching, so I can quickly search for, let's say, a document by the number of 0027. But you can also build a filter here, by specific, let's say, criteria such as effective date, department. So you get the understanding here that what we're doing is just making sure that this list is tailored to what you're trying to find. On the right-hand side here are a number of buttons, and I want to draw your attention to one specific one. And this kind of relates to what Aaron said a few minutes ago. There is an Excel export here. So you can export the registry, the whole of it, parts of it, depending on what you need, into an Excel. And then you can actually circulate these reports to interested stakeholders who may not have access to this area of the application. Or you can also make them available via corporate portals. Aaron mentioned CoreShare. There's also intranets and other areas that people might want to have access to. A bit similar to the reports, which we're going to be seeing at the end of this. If I wanted to see more information associated with record number 27, I can click on the record link. And this page, which loads at this moment, shows the entire document life cycle. And it allows me to demonstrate adherence to regulations or even internal procedures for managing documents. So ultimately, the events tab here, there's a list of all the events, the full document lifecycle for this particular policy. And you can see from here that it has gone through a number of different events. It was created, revised a couple of times. It then became obsolete. Then it was revised. Then it was periodically reviewed. This is the item that Aaron mentioned earlier on, that it alerts someone automatically after X number of months or years to review this document and make changes to it. And at the moment, the revision number 5 is currently being revised on this date, but also I can see from here instantly what the current task is. For those that know OpenText very well, this is very, very beneficial. It doesn't mean that you have to go through to the workflow status and dwell into workflows to get that information. From here, it's all in one place and instantly accessible. And also, I said that you can access the current task from here. You can click on the event ID link here. And what this will do is to bring up a set of informations, including who were the approvers and who were the reviewers, you know, information that might be interested for auditing purposes. But also what it does here, it gives me the current step. And if I wanted to here, I could actually reassign that to another person. And this is very useful. Again, another thing which, you know, it's very beneficial when you are a workflow manager or a document controller. Say, for example, one of my colleagues is on vacation, or my colleague has moved on to join another team. Sometimes these workflows, these jobs are held up because of those reasons. But from here, you can simply reassign, find the individual that you want to actually reassign this task to, and that's it. And now that individual will actually receive an email message alerting them that they have a job to do, and this process can now actually move on. So we're not losing time. Also, we're making sure that we are, you know, adhering to all the compliance and all from one place. I'm going to go back to my overview page because I want to show you a couple of more things here which are also quite useful. The record creation here, this particular screen shows a set of the data which was captured together with this document. We're going to see this very, very soon, but when you actually create a document, it's not just about throwing a document into a process and expect someone to review it. You also add some information which is associated to that document. And one of those informations that we saw before is the effective date. You might actually index it by marketing, and also the next review date is here. So all this information comes from a form, a very sophisticated form that actually is completed during the event startup. Also, a couple of things here which are very important. The source document and the release document are also kept here. So as you can probably gather, source document is the actual item that started the process from, and the release document is the one that's going to end up in the published area, which was the policies and procedures folder that we saw at the very, very beginning of this session today. Lastly, just like with any good system, there is full audit trail here, which allows for, I guess, you know, compliance and auditing, and you can check who's done what, where, and it's all captured in, again, all in one place. The last thing I want to show you on the registry is the reports. These are the reports that come together with the document change control, not the document training option that we're going to see at the end of this section. So I'm going to click on my reports here. Okay, so this is like a graphical style reporting which is available to me, and from the overview I can obtain a bird's eye view of my organization's document change control activities. As an example, the first pie chart here illustrates a number of documents being created, revised, also periodically reviewed, and so on during this period. I guess much can be said about the benefits of document change control reporting, but vitally, a document controller from my team could help improve the process here, reducing even bottlenecks by studying these charts. And as Aaron mentioned earlier on, you can do better workload forecasting, and you can allocate work much smarter and much better, or you can actually watch out for trends. And all this stuff feeds into making sure that, you know, people are not overwhelmed with work, and you can forecast for the future who can do what, when revisions should take place, and other stuff can come here from these pie charts. Right, this is going to be another section for the document change control, but this is a little bit more, I guess, process related. We're going to be looking at how workflow assignments are allocated in this process, because we've been talking about that we are business process experts and we have best practice processes, and that's all true, by the way. But what we're going to do now is to, I guess, show how this works. And for this, I will have to use a different persona found on the right-hand side here. So what we do is we have these predefined personas, which are the, I guess, actors inside the document change control process. And those are document owner, approver, reviewer, document controller. But to start the process here, I need to select document owner. So here I am Mike Smith. I'm a document owner, and my task is to complete an assignment regarding an update to a new procedure. And to do that is simple. You can actually click on the link in my assignments. Normally, an email notification will inform me to perform the update to the document, thereby increasing efficiency. But in the interest of time, I'm just going to quickly click on that link and go directly to it. So on this form, what I would do here now as the document author is to check the actual data on the form provided for correctness. I might change things, I might manipulate things, and then by and large, I would edit the document from this particular form. And once I do that, it would open up the document in its native application. In this case, this policy is a Word document, and as you can appreciate, this could be a fully fledged document with lots of information around a policy or a procedure. And then the document author here would manipulate the document, make changes to it based on the review comments that the previous person has made. And once they make those changes, they will save the document and then just close the actual Word document and go back here. What's important here as well to note is that I guess this form is fully configurable. This is the document owner's view. Some things are read-only, some other items are editable, so I can type in here, but I cannot change the record ID. And the reason why I'm saying that is because our forms are fully configurable and they can be tailored based on your business requirements and your own needs. So these are not set in stone. These are just indicative. This is what we're showing today, but if you guys needed some specific forms to be completed to a certain kind of way, that's very easily achievable. And the document author here, once they made the changes, I will now send this on for review. And now what will happen here is this particular task will be sent to another party, another actor, who is the reviewer in the process. And their responsibility is to actually go in and check to make sure that the changes I made, the ones that they wish for, have actually been adapted correctly. They've been applied correctly. Of course, the reviewer will be communicated by email to do that, as always. But in this case, to demonstrate the next part of this session, I need to go in now as the reviewer. And it's worthwhile noting here that reviewers and approvers simply inspect the form that we saw and the document comments before sending it on for publishing to the official location. So it's quite important to know that the reviewer's job is not as intense as, say, the document authors there. This is Karen Field's homepage. She's a reviewer, and I have a task here as Karen Field to do a review, and that's waiting for me here. So I can easily click on this link. And once I click on this link, just as we saw with the document author, the form is presented to me read-only now, going back to the configuration element I mentioned earlier on. And from here, the actual reviewer, I would normally just go into the document and open it and make sure that what I asked for the second round of review was actually applied, the document was modified correctly. And if indeed that document, be it a policy or a procedure, in this case actually a procedure, it was actually done correctly, I can actually send it back and that's it. Besides that, there's a couple of things I want to share with you up here. There is a timeline option here, which is quite nice. Again, those who know workflows in OpenText, this is just in a nutshell type of, workflow status, telling you exactly where you are in the process. And here we are, currently in review. And the other thing here is the comments that you can actually add, besides the comments that you make on the document, you can actually put some more comments outside of the document. And those comments are actually captured as part of the audit trail as well, and for historical reasons. So now I've gone in, assuming I have actually opened the document, I checked it, I'm happy with the changes that the document author has applied. I've checked the timeline, I've checked the bits and pieces on the form, and I'm happy. Once I'm finished, I will send it back to the document author for another round of reviews. And I guess that completes the process of how the DCC process between a document author and a reviewer works. Of course, this is just a flavor. We also have approvers, document controllers in this process. There is lots of automated steps, but we just want to share with you how simple it is between two individuals to bounce a review and how things happen there.
Yeah, I think it's really nice to see how we can help manage just a small bit of that process. There's obviously a lot more to it as well, Chris. But I think that the key takeaway from this bit really is down to that an organization can take control of their documents. They can make sure that they put the processes in, and they can make sure that the reviews and approvals are done, all of which is really important in the modern world of making sure that people do their best. I know, for example, there's been an awful lot of incidents kind of on a global scale that have come to the media's attention recently. Last week there was a train crash in Greece. I know there's been a couple in the US recently. A couple of years ago there was a ship that ran aground in Europe. And sometimes I almost feel that the world is becoming very, very blame orientated. They're looking for somebody to blame. And by making sure that you control your documents and there is a clear history of who did what, I think it'll help people understand what happened. And it's not really about looking to blame somebody, because people do make mistakes. We're all human, and I feel that we all need to make mistakes. In fact, in Ireland in the last couple of years, in the political arena, it's almost become necessary to step down from your position for any small discretion in how you're doing your business. And this morning on the news, there was a bit about the financial institutions and how it's going to become easier for people to sue individuals within financial organizations when things go wrong. But I think really what our product is here to do is help an organization look after employees by giving them the right information, and try to make their business better, to understand why things aren't as effective or efficient, how can things be made better, and so on. So I think it's really important to do that. I think as well in our experience, we've really covered a huge number of different scenarios, like the one, for example, Chris just gave of being able to reassign, and all of that's through configuration. In some instances, there might be another button actually that says recall, if you wanted to recall a document from reviewers and so on. And we're even doing some work currently on making sure that if a document is being obsoleted, if there's any references to that document, that they're also removed from those other documents. So it's all about the accuracy of the content, maintaining your data, making sure it's accurate so that you can use it properly and the people can use it safely and so on. So just to bring a small bit in there. Yeah, I think we're probably down to the last section now, Chris, so back to you one final time.
Yeah, sure. It's the last run, but I guess you're making some valid points, and I think the audience needs to know. And I'm relatively new to the kinematic business, and one of the things I was really impressed with is how easy things are done in terms of configuring things inside the OpenText solution, because our products sit on top of the OpenText solution, but also is this like best practice processes, workflows, which are, you know, been done based on experience, empirical knowledge, and how good they are, and you get like a plug and play type of solution with the document change control. You don't have to invest lots of time to develop things from scratch and, you know, have a business analyst getting requirements and all these kind of things. It's just like you get this solution and away you go. It's very low code, which means that, you know, things can be adapted and very easily. But it's just something you have to throw in. It's more of a technical, I guess, point, but it's worthwhile for the audience to know that, you know, there's a lot of business challenges around, you know, the world right now. But, you know, these kind of solutions, if they're very easy to deploy and to the company's business requirements, that's also another benefit, which is kind of like, you know, something to consider when we're looking at any product out there which works on top of OpenText platforms. So yeah, for the final part of today's session, we're going to be looking at the document training workspace and its ability to automate your document training process, ensuring your employees always read and understand the latest policies and procedures. Hence, they're all up to date. So to do this, I will have to switch back to our friend, Jack Murphy. So this persona is the HR manager, as we had said it previously. And from here, I can easily access the document training workspace. The document training workspace, again, is a business workspace, but the document training registry is a single centralized system for your policies and procedures training management. So therefore, you can be compliant with your information governance policies and regulations, so on. The document training section that we're looking at right now is a full coverage of all employees' document training activities. But there is also another part to this, which is the document training management. And the document training management actually, well, it lists all the automated training plans which ensure training tasks are ensured are processed automatically. And obviously, as we've been talking for the last hour or so, users receive automated notifications, and the whole thing of like making sure that you automate your policy training planning. That means that you are increasing your efficiency and compliance, and you can rest assured that the right people will be contacted at the right time. But the big question is, how do we actually set up something like this? You know, how is it done? So this is the document training management section for planning, and if I click on this option here, what it does, it brings up another dashboard. And in this dashboard here, we have a couple of options: training roles and training rules. And this is how you set up an actual automated, let's say, system to do your policy and procedure training. So remember, in my capacity as a fictional HR manager, let's assume that there is a new joiner in my organization. So starting off, the first thing we need to do, of course, is to add the new team member into something. And the way it works, you have to add that person into a role. And on the left here, we have some predefined roles. We have supervisors, engineers, scientists. But let's assume that this new person who's joined is an engineer. So I will add that new person from a predefined list of people who are working inside my organization or inside my team. It's going to pick up good old Amy Adams. Okay, now she's been added. So the first thing I've done here is I've added the new starter into a group or into a role. This means the new starter, when added to this group, will be assigned any of the training that a rule references this role, or any new policy trainings, as well as existing policy trainings. So basically, this is not just like an action for going forward. It also respects any previous trainings. So I've added now Amy into the engineer role. And next, I'm going to show you how the training rule works. So now to set up a rule is quite simple. I'm going to edit one, in fact. I'm going to choose a rule which is related to the engineer role, which is where I added Amy Adams. And I will now edit the rule, as I said, and I'm going to share with you how simple it is to actually configure this. Each rule has a title. It's been given a status. There's also here a rule type. There is a maximum number of days. We mentioned that before. How many days should a person have to complete a training? In this case, it's 7. And also you can have an approval as well for this rule. So I kind of just set up a rule and away you go. You can have gatekeepers in the process to make sure that these rules are approved before those individuals actually contacted to do their policy training. Now, the key thing here is those items on the bottom and on the right here on the roles, you can see that this rule is only for engineers. Of course, I can add more roles here. I can have supervisor here, also scientists, but this particular one, this engineering training is only for the engineers. And that's the reason why it's been set up to engineer. And as you may remember, Amy Adams was added to the engineer role, and now she's actually going to be respecting this role. She's going to be alerted every time this rule is triggered automatically. But all the magic happens here in the folder. This folder is called Training for Engineers Part 2. This folder serves a purpose of making sure that every time a new item is added into this folder, or each time an existing item is updated in that folder, it will send an email to the engineer role or the engineer group, alerting them that there is some training to be undertaken. So ultimately, you can rest assured that once you set up this rule, any item which is added to that folder or anything which is changed in that folder, the engineer group will be contacted. So let's take an example of a policy. A policy was actually, changed by one of those document authors that we saw earlier on. As soon as that change is made and that is published, that is ready, in this folder, all the engineers will be sent an email to undertake that training timely and within the period of time that you've given them. So this automation of policy training assignments is a massive benefit. All you have to do is to set up the rule, and this rule will automatically always reach out to all the members of that role that is assigned to in here. In closing this session, I would now very quickly, I guess, because we run out of time, we'll go to our reports.
Yeah, I'd say, Chris, maybe just a minute on this, if we can do that quickly, please. Yeah, super.
Okay. So yeah, in closing this session, we're going to look at the real-time report dashboard showing the training management reports. I mean, these reports are indicative, and we can have many more of these reports tailored to your needs. They can be developed to suit your policy, document tracking needs, or maintain compliance. But on this dashboard that we're looking at, you can quickly and easily determine late trainings that we can see from here, that these are the late trainings, and you can see the name of the individuals on the bottom there, or which ones are on schedule. The main benefit here is the ability to observe all policy and user-based training activities on one screen, and to ensure that documents are being read and understood, and that users are always being trained on all the appropriate documents. And as Aaron said earlier on, actions can be taken based on this comprehensive reporting to reach out to people to see why people are not completing their training on time. Is it because the actual document wasn't produced properly? Is it difficult to understand? And all the other reasons that Aaron mentioned. I wanted to speak a bit more about this real-time dashboard, but I think I've run out of time. So I'm just going to hand it back to you, Aaron, and maybe we can
super.
Take some questions.
Thanks, Chris. That was really, really informative today, actually, and I think it's probably quite clear to everybody that we have a really good solution to not just manage policies and procedures, but also to make sure that the organization knows that they're being read, they're being understood, they're being used, to pull out tracking information, trending information, to help make the overall process and content more applicable and useful as well. Now I know we're at the top of the hour. Sorry, Gretchen, the usual kinematic thing of taking up every single second. There were a couple of questions, if I can just answer those briefly.
Yeah.
There was one question on using workflow. Are we using the workflow map as the base workflow logic? So yes, we are. We don't have any custom objects as part of our products whatsoever. They're all deployed using content server applications. So it's all workflow based, absolutely, and we've quite a lot of best practices and advanced features built around that. And maybe one more question, just given the time. Can you create links between documents, example SOP and associated forms? So yes, as part of the forms that Chris was showing earlier, we do have an area for related documents where you can select other policies, procedures, forms, and so on from Extended ECM. We pull in the metadata for those documents so the user can see them, and they can then go and decide on what type of a reference it is. And at the end of the process, when we make the document effective, we go and create cross-references between that new policy or new SOP and those reference documents so that users can navigate between them. But we can also use that then for other things. So for example, a couple of use cases might be, you might have an English document and maybe a French and German document. If you relate those, if you designate, for example, the English document in this situation as the parent, if that English parent document gets revised and a new revision is released, we can update the owner of the French and German documents to say, hey, there's a new revision of the parent English document. You may need to look at your documents to see, do they also need to be updated? And that other example I gave earlier on in the meeting today on the obsolete documents, we use that same set of features of those relationships to make sure that that we're maintaining the accuracy of that metadata and so on as well. So thank you all for all your time today and attention. As always, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out to either Chris or myself, or via your OpenText AE or SC. They know how to contact us as well if there are any questions. I know there were a few other questions that came in. Sorry we didn't have time to answer those, but if anyone has anything else, please, as I said, just email. Thank you all so much and have a wonderful day. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye.